I asked 3 questions. Why'd you put the tape on the doorbell camera? Why'd you cut the lights? And why didn't you wear the body cams? What are you trying to hide?
Mr. Chairman, the reason that we called for the investigation is we're not trying to hide anything.
But the reason we're not trying to hide anything is because we called for an investigation by the state police and the local prosecutors. You gotta believe us.
Did the ATF potentially instigate this man's death? Let's get into it. In this video, I want to go over a case of Brian Malinowski was killed by the ATF because of this new rule that they created where it is not having to have your main income being firearm sales, but now if you make a profit on any type of firearm sales, then you're required to be an FFL. When he's one of the highest paid officials at this airport, he's making over 200 grand a year, doesn't have a criminal background, and they would have looked into this. And they decided to choose a day that he was home when they were ready to raid his home, a time that he wasn't there, which would have avoided confrontation if they were trying to come after some firearms or seize his firearms or whatever, to try to avoid confrontation. No, they decided to come at nighttime when he's home, cut his lights, cut his power, tape his camera, his doorbell camera, and then not wear body cams at all. And then the police that were accompanying them, which usually wear body cams, were not wearing body cameras. So they have the ATF in this room. He's being questioned. I'll let you decide what you think really happened here with all that is laid out. And I'm going to be reacting to this video. So if you don't like reactions, I'm going to put the link to the full video in the description. I'm going to be pausing at times and giving my opinion. Let's get into it.
First, it was the pistol brace rule. November 26, 2012, the ATF told the inventor of the pistol brace, quote, he would not be subject to the National Firearms Act. But last year, they changed the rule. After 12 years, changed the rule.
They have taken it upon themselves to change the definition of a pistol brace is legal or not, even though there's no due process in what they have done. Let's continue.
The rule, by the way, the pistol brace was put together to help disabled veterans be able to shoot, be able to practice and shoot at the range. Now, with the rule change, if you don't turn it in, get rid of it, you become a felon. Then it was a policy change that the ATF enacted. The ATF now says if a federal firearms licensee makes a mistake on the form, even if it's a clerical mistake, well, that now equals a, quote, willful falsifying of records, and they could lose their license. In fact, 157 FFLs lost their license last year in this gotcha game that the ATF is playing.
No, these people, honestly, at this point, they're criminal, okay? These people have malicious intent, and they're disguising it as stupidity. So let's just keep watching.
With people who are in the business of selling firearms. And the pressure to deal with what the ATF comes out and finds you made some mistake on a form. Many people are just voluntarily giving up their FFL. 24 in 2021, 69 in 2022, 80 people last year gave up their license versus dealing with the hassle from the agency that's supposed to help them comply, not.
They know when they make these changes that may seem small but are big, it's because they want to make it more of a hassle. They want to get rid of more FFLs. They want to take guns away from the American people. It's just an incremental process, boiling frog effect with these communist bastards.
Put them out of business. And finally, there's the new definition of who actually needs a federal firearms license. Since 1968, the definition said it had to be your principal livelihood in the business of selling firearms. You needed that. If you were doing that, you needed an FFL. But this past Monday, new definition was put in place. It said if you're earning a profit, ATF can't really define what that means. You sell one gun to your cousin, made $10,
And they got to make these laws vague, just like the SAFE Act and just like a lot of these assault weapons bans where you don't know if you can have a pistol grip or if you can have a foregrip or a hand stop, because you can't have a foregrip, but the hand stop might be considered a foregrip. No, fuck you, because they want to make it so vague that the law-abiding citizen doesn't even want to fucking try to abide the law and just says, no, I won't even fucking have a Second Amendment because this is bullshit and I don't want to fucking get a felony.
$50 on the sale of a gun, 2 guns to someone, 10 guns. In fact, they couldn't even tell the court how it works, this new definition. When you make up the rules as you go, bad things happen. You lose your livelihood for a clerical error. You become a felon for having a pistol brace they told you was legal for 12 years, and you might even get shot. That's what happened to Brian Malinowski just 2 months ago. We have Brian's widow with us today. She was here with us yesterday. Heard some powerful testimony from U.S. Attorney Bud Cummings, who represents the Malinowski family. In fact, I'm going to read from Mr. Cummings' testimony that he gave in this room yesterday. It's legal to buy, trade, and sell guns without a federal firearms license if you are a collector or hobbyist. But at some point, the ATF decided that Brian Malinowski had crossed a murky line, and he was no longer a hobbyist. Because of that, ATF concluded he was required to purchase a $200 federal firearms license before he sold any more guns. I call it murky because there is no bright line test. It's truly subjective.
After they had changed this definition where if you're making a profit, what about inflation? What about I bought a 1022 for $200 20 years ago and now it's $300 and I sold it to a buddy and I made $100 or let's say I made $5 that's a profit. They consider that an FFL?
But one thing seems certain. Brian Malinowski received no warning. His family, his friends, his work colleagues would all guarantee you he loved his career and he would have never knowingly jeopardized it over a weekend hobby. His real job, his main job, the only job, was he ran the Bill and Hillary Clinton Airport in Little Rock, Arkansas, highest paid official in the municipal government, made $260,000 a year. But on March 19th at 6:01 a.m.,
and that's a perfect part to preface, too, of how much money he made in his actual career. And the ATF would have looked into this. So they would have known that this guy wasn't actually making his principal income off of this, but just because of this new definition of any type of profit made under any circumstance, $1 could be considered that. So a penny could be considered a profit.
Over 1 hour before sunup, 10 carloads of ATF agents and Little Rock Police Department officers came to the Malinowski home to execute their search warrant. Not an arrest warrant, search warrant. At 6:02:46 a.m., ATF agents in full SWAT gear approached the front door. They had a piece of tape ready to cover the camera lens of the doorbell camera, which they did. Next, Mrs. Malinowski heard only a loud crash as her front door caved in. Her husband, Brian, woke up to the sound of the crash, found a pistol, loaded a magazine, and left the bedroom to investigate. Brian warned his wife to stay behind in the bedroom, but Mayor stubbornly followed him down the hallway. The ATF apparently killed electricity to the home. The front room was usually well lit at night, but Mrs. Malinowski saw only darkness as she peered down towards the front entryway. She could only see shadowy outlines of presumed home invaders standing in her front hallway. That's what Brian saw too. Brian fired a few shots at the intruders' feet to drive them back out of the front door. The ATF shot Brian in the head. His wife was standing inches away from him. A mere 57 seconds. 57 seconds elapsed from the time agents covered the doorbell camera until gunshots erupted and Brian was fatally wounded. 6:02:46 to 6:03:43. Agents immediately dragged Mrs. Malinowski into the front yard. She was barefoot, wearing minimal night clothing, and the temperature was 34 degrees. They locked her in the back seat of a car and detained her there for 4 hours.
So this is how the American government treats American citizens. Now, widow dragged out into the freezing fucking cold. You can just see the picture, just getting dragged out while her husband's fucking lifeless on the ground. Covered the camera. We're not wearing body cam, but the police that were helping you, that is their policy to wear body cam, and they weren't wearing body cam. So why weren't they wearing body cam? Why did you tape it? Cameras. And why did you not announce yourselves? And why did you cut the power? And why didn't you raid his home when he wasn't home? When you knew he wasn't home another day before that, Jordan's gonna get into. So you instead of picking a day that would avoid confrontation, you pick a day. Oh, because maybe you wanted to shoot out with him, and maybe you just wanted to make it seem like a burglar, so you would incite him to shoot first, so you could kill his ass and get away with it. Maybe it was that. What do you guys think? Keep watching.
Refusing her many requests to check on her husband she had just seen shot, wouldn't allow her to get close or even use the neighbor's bathroom. Even though policies have been in place at both the ATF and the Little Rock Police Department for the past 3 years, requiring the use of body-worn cameras when executing any search warrant, the Department of Justice tells us that no body cameras were used. If this isn't the weaponization of government, I don't know what is. And we have a video I'd like to show, which, just so it's a minute and a half, but it first shows ATF agents assembling in the Walmart parking lot a week before March 19th, when they were going to execute this search warrant. Again, pre-dawn hours a week before, but decided not to because they realized Mr. Malinowski wasn't home. And then it shows what happened a week later as they approached the Malinowski home. So let's run the video. Mr. Dettelbach, what were you trying to hide?
Hearing the ATF's response is gold. It's completely gold. It's hilarious, but it's kind of scary. It makes me kind of wonder what the U.S. government was doing to people that stepped out of line for all of history, ever since our country's been around, if this is going on.
On the raid on March 19th at Mr. Malinowski's house, disabled the doorbell camera, cut electricity to the house, and you didn't wear body cameras. What were you guys trying to hide?
Mr. Chairman, we're not trying to hide things. In fact,
Sure
after
seems like it.
You
You guys cut electricity to the house?
after the,
Oh,
after
that's
the-
a question.
I'm trying to answer. After the, okay, if there's no question, that's fine. I'm sorry.
No, that is a question. Did you?
After the incident, we, along with the Little Rock Police, called for an independent investigation being done by the Arkansas State Police and the local prosecutor.
No, I
there.
asked-
That's
I
not
asked-
We're not trying to hide anything. We weren't wearing body cameras. Don't worry, the state police are going to investigate for us.
trying to
I
hide
asked-
anything.
I asked 3 questions. Why'd you put the tape on the doorbell camera? Why'd you cut the lights? And why didn't you wear the body cams? What are you trying to hide?
And Mr. Chairman, the reason that we called for the investigation is we're not trying to hide anything.
Mr. Chairman, hold on. We taped the camera and we didn't wear body cams and we cut the power. The reason we're not trying to hide anything is because we called for an investigation by the state police and the local prosecutors. You gotta believe us. We're not trying to hide anything. That's why we called for the investigation. No, we weren't wearing body cameras, and we taped the camera, but we called for an investigation by the fucking state police, the hand of the fucking governor, and some local fucking prosecutors.
The reason I'm not going to talk about what's going on in that investigation is to respect its independence and out of fairness. There's a reason for the Department of Justice policy that's existed for so many decades about not commenting on pending matters. It's not fair to people, and it risks.
It also wasn't fair that you didn't even give the gentleman a chance to plead his case, serve his time for the crimes that you're going to charge him with or put onto him. It isn't fair that you showed up at his house, kind of seemingly like a burglar. You knew he was going to probably defend his home when you show up at his fucking house in the middle of the night, tape his fucking camera, cut his power, and then proceed to act like a bunch of fucking burglars.
The perception that people are trying to influence
how about
the
this one? Why'd you ignore the rules? Because don't the rules say you should only use a no-knock entrance into a property if it's the only way, if it's the absolute best way to do it? I mean, I can read from Ms. Monaco's directive. Limit the circumstances in which agents may seek to enter a dwelling pursuant to a warrant without complying with the knock and announce rule because of the risk posed to both law enforcement and civilians. So you want to limit this. Why'd you guys do it all in 57 seconds?
Respectfully, with respect to what I said before, is that we are not trying to hide anything. An independent agency is investigating it.
What is with this insistence of we're not trying to hide anything, we have an independent investigation going on? Do you realize how stupid that fucking sounds? So you show up at this guy's house, cover his door cam, cut his fucking power, don't wear fucking body cameras, probably tell the police not to wear fucking body cameras, and then proceed to kill this guy, and then have a fucking investigation afterwards by the state police. The state police of which, in many fucking states, the citizen views as the hand of the governor, of which that will enforce tyrannical laws that local police won't enforce. All you gotta do is look at New York State during the disease, where they wouldn't enforce the Thanksgiving policies in the upstate counties and etc. And these new gun law states, the local sheriffs won't enforce the new gun laws, whereas state police will willingly do whatever the hell. Your job is to literally lie to people, so you're doing a good job at least beating around the bush.
And we, pursuant to longstanding policy, are not going to comment.
The Department of Justice has already told us you guys weren't wearing cameras. I'm just asking why.
For the cameras, our body-worn camera policy, I can talk about that. I think I can answer the question without talking about this case.
You can talk about some things relative to the investigation, but not others. We want all the answers to what's going on here.
I will tell you, with respect to the body-worn camera policy, the Department of Justice announced that policy when it was announced, as we have communicated to your staff and you. It was announced that it would be phased implementation. ATF is implementing that policy. We've implemented it in just under a third of our field divisions. We have not received 3 separate requests for program funding from Congress to do so, but we are still doing it. I watched a hearing a couple of weeks ago where your fellow chairman...
Did the Little Rock police officers who accompanied you on this raid, did they wear body cams?
Again, not commenting on this specific case, but in general, the Department of Justice written policy allows local law enforcement on these types of operations, short-term operations, to follow their own guidelines and policies, if they wish, in body-worn cameras. And what I wanted to say is...
Their policy was to wear them. They weren't wearing them that day. We want to know why. Did you tell them not to wear them?
Mr. Chairman, again...
This guy's like a deer in headlights when posed with these seemingly simple questions. For raids, especially of such high stakes as that, they're not wearing body cam. You would think that for body cam, it would exonerate police officers if accused of wrongdoing. But when not worn, purposely not worn, it's just like, it just begs the question, what the hell are you trying to hide?
It is simply unfair at this point while there's a pending investigation.
That's a simple question. We just want to know why they weren't following the rules. Their rules say wear body cameras. Your rules say wear body cameras. You weren't wearing body cameras. I go back to my original question. What were you trying to hide? We saw the video where you walked up and you put the tape on the doorbell. We know there were no lights to the foyer area. We have Mrs. Malinowski here who can testify to that. And we know you weren't wearing body cameras. What were you hiding?
Again, Mr. Chairman, we're not hiding anything. And with respect to the body-worn camera policy, the people there...
Why on the 12th did you not go and search the home? You were all circled up, ready to go, but a week before, on the 12th of March, you don't go, you go on the 19th. Why'd you decide not to go on the 12th?
Mr. Chairman, these operations...
Just look at the audacity of, like, that guy when he's just like, Mr. Chairman, how dare you ask me questions? I am so pompous and I work for the hand of the king. I work for the enforcement arm of...
And by the way, We do about 11,000 operations each year. They're very dangerous operations. ATF doesn't do anything that is not dangerous. Well, it's not quite true, but many of them are very, very dangerous. And those operations are handled by people with decades of law enforcement experience. They plan them, they look at things,
Director, you got to admit, this is a little unique. You got a citizen, the highest paid official in the municipal government, Little Rock, Arkansas, making $260,000 a year, running the airport, no criminal background history, nothing, and he's dead at a pre-dawn raid when it sure looks like you could have served this search warrant when he wasn't there, but you decided not to. You decided to wait till he was home when you did it on March 19th. And as a result, Mr. Malinowski is no longer with us.
Well, first of all, let me just say this, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, any time that there's a loss of life, that is a profound incident. And of course, on behalf of just myself, ATF, and all law enforcement, we are very sorry when those things happen. Also, an agent was shot that day, and I'm sure you are sorry that that occurred also.
Of course, all the more reason to follow the no-knock warrant, not to have a no-knock warrant take place and follow the rules.
Mr. Chairman, as somebody who has worked with law enforcement for decades, there's a great temptation when a horrible incident happens to prejudge. Sometimes people even try to use it to advance agendas. The cops who are in the field and the family
I just want the answers. My time has expired. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Johnson, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the video. I'm going to put the full link to the video in the description below. So this is a brief synopsis of what happened. So this gentleman sells firearms part-time. He's got a high-paying job at an airport, okay? No criminal background. With the ATF's new rule, any type of profits, a penny made in a firearm, consider you enemy of the state. Well, they plan to array this gentleman, and they got together, were able to go to his house when he wasn't there to perform the raid, get whatever firearms they deemed necessary. They didn't decide to do it. They waited until nighttime of the day that he was there, showed up, cut his power, put tape over his camera, proceeded not to wear body cameras when they should have been wearing body cameras. They knew that he was armed and that he probably would defend his home. And then after Mr. Malinowski shot a couple bullets at their feet, warning them to go away because he thought they were burglars, they had then shot him in the head. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you liked, comment, and subscribe. Leave your thoughts below if you think that they murdered this man. I'm not going to say too much. You can make your own thoughts after watching this video, but I hope you enjoyed. Tell me what you want to see next, and I'll see you on the next one.